All right, sports fans, how's everybody out there doing? William Martin coming at you one more time here on YouTube with another edition of the 300 Pounds of Sports Knowledge podcast. We're a matter of days from ringing in the new year, while we also have 2 weeks left in the regular season of the NFL campaign. And one thing that is definitely certain, and that is that there is no clear cut favorite to hoist the Lombardi trophy in 6 weeks. Now, the San Francisco 49ers, they've been looking like gangbusters for the past couple of months until they got steamrolled last night at home, courtesy of the Baltimore Ravens. Of course, this game was highlighted by Ravens quarterback Lamar Jackson just being in the zone and torching this Niners defense, while this Ravens defense put the clamps on this Niners offense. Most importantly, quarterback Brock Purdy as he threw 4 interceptions. So it's going to make a lot of people rethink the San Francisco 49ers. Then you look at the Kansas City Chiefs. Yes, they are still leading the AFC West, but the defending Super Bowl champions don't look like a team that is poised to repeat, especially after they just lost at home yesterday to the Raiders. The Philadelphia Eagles, they're the defending NFC champs, and they just ended a 3 game losing streak by defeating the New York Giants last night. But even in that win, the Eagles look less than convincing. The Dallas Cowboys, they just lost a tough one on Sunday to the Miami Dolphins, their second consecutive loss. They lost to the Buffalo Bills the previous week. And it's just one of those things where, the Cowboys are undefeated at home, but they have a losing record on the road. And on top of that, they keep finding a way to come up short against the NFL's top teams. The Miami Dolphins, uh, they have a chance if they beat the Baltimore Ravens this weekend to be the top team in the AFC. But can the Dolphins be trusted? You look at the Ravens and Lamar Jackson. When Lamar is healthy, Baltimore continues to be one of the best teams in the AFC. But Lamar to this point in his NFL career has only won one postseason game. The Buffalo Bills, they've been up and down all season long until the last couple of weeks when it appears that they're ready to get it going. But then they just had to struggle on the road on Saturday to beat the Chargers. The AFC South, somebody's got to win this division at some point. You look at the Cleveland Browns, and I mean, the Browns have had so many injuries, but they keep on winning. And now you've got yourself a Super Bowl winning quarterback in veteran Joe Flacco that you picked up off the street. So you have to wonder what type of chances do the Browns have. Then the Detroit Lions, they just clinched the NFC North. It's one of those where a lot of people are looking over the Lions because of their history. But are the Lions for real? We'll find out next month in the postseason. You got 24 teams that are still mathematically alive to make the postseason with just 2 weeks to go in the regular season. You look at the quarterback position, so many injuries there. And I'm being nice about this number because currently you got 13 teams that have a starting quarterback who was not the starting quarterback when the season began. Some of that's for bad play, most of it's for injuries. But let's talk about the quarterback position overall and the quality of play at the position. And for me, it's watered down. And I'm going to ask the question, why is it so watered down? I got a lot of reasons. One thing I'm going to focus on is analytics. And I know some people are going to say, well, why do you always talk down about analytics? I mean, analytics have their place in sports, yes, but I feel like too many people in positions of authority in respective sports are focusing too much on the analytics instead of thinking. All right. That's part of it. I think, going back to the spread offenses at the high school and collegiate levels, clearly they've made their way to the National Football League. It's changed a lot of things, okay, good and bad. And then also, I feel that too many teams reach for quarterbacks early on in this draft just because they need a quarterback, not necessarily because that guy is the right guy for your team and that guy is the right guy for your system. And I also think because of the analytics, they've gotten rid of, some of the veteran quarterbacks that would be there to, like, a mentor some of these young guys. I feel like because of that and the rookie pay scale, along with the fact that, coaches don't really have the stability like they did once upon a time. So because of that, they're throwing these younger guys out there quicker than they need to be out there. Not every quarterback that is drafted out of college into the National Football League is ready to be a starter from day one. Some guys might need a year. Some guys might need half of the year. Some guys might need like 3 or 4 games, but for in some cases, it's better to sit back and watch a little bit and just get, a glimpse of things. And, again, getting back to the veteran quarterbacks, I feel like not enough teams are doing that where you're having a veteran guy who can come in there and mentor him. In some cases, we'll see these rookie quarterbacks go out there for their respective team, and their backup quarterback might have only been in the league for 2 or 3 years. So, really, what is that guy going to sit back and teach this young guy who's now gotten the keys to this franchise as far as what he needs to do with the position? You look at the elite quarterbacks overall, and there's really not a lot of guys right now that we can go out there and say are truly elite quarterbacks. You've got Patrick Mahomes, and I know that Aaron Rodgers is out, but when Aaron Rodgers is out there and healthy, he's still an elite quarterback at this point in his career. Joe Burrow, definitely. You can make a case for Josh Allen. Deshaun Watson is one of those. He was looking like an elite quarterback in Houston, and I think the jury is still out because between the injuries and suspensions with the Cleveland Browns. Justin Herbert, you can make a case for. Matt Stafford, definitely, first during his time with the Lions, but I think with what he has done with the Rams after getting with Sean McVay has really elevated him to another level. There might be a case for a couple of other guys, but not that many. And we've always had elite quarterbacks in the National Football League, regardless of the era. The Dan Marino, John Elway, era, the Roger Staubach era, Bart Starr, so many others. Okay, Tom Brady, Peyton Manning, you name it. And you always have your tiers of quarterbacks. But right now, I feel like the gap, and this is my opinion, of course, the gap between the elite quarterbacks and everybody else is growing. Whereas before, you had your elite quarterbacks, but then you still had your good quarterbacks, guys that you knew could go out there and win for you. And I feel like there's not a lot of quarterbacks out there starting right now in the NFL where you could say this guy can put a team on his back and make those key plays to get you to a championship. Patrick Mahomes can do that. Joe Burrow can do that. Okay. Obviously, Aaron Rodgers has done it in the past. But again, there's not a lot of guys who you can sit back and say, you know what, that guy can lead and make the key plays to win a championship for a team. Now, another thing for me, the quarterback position is overrated when it comes to the NFL's MVP award because the quarterbacks obviously they've clearly won the award more than any other position because they have the ball in their hands on every single play. But I think this year at least, unless it's Lamar Jackson, I do believe that if he's not going to get the MVP award, the award needs to go to a position player because up until last night people were talking about Brock Purdy, but what about the people that Brock Purdy has around him, a la Christian McCaffrey? You think about what Tua has been able to do this year in Miami, but what he would he be able to do that without Tyreek Hill? And Tyreek Hill is one of clearly the most dynamic wide receivers in the NFL right now. As far to me, I think it's like one A and one B as far as the top wide receivers. Take your pick: Tyreek, Justin Jefferson, Jamar Chase. Flip them around any way you want, in my opinion, as far as who's the best in the NFL. But nonetheless, it's one of those where we focus so much on the quarterback position. There's other guys out there, in my opinion, especially this year, that are more deserving to be the NFL's MVP, that are not quarterbacks and are not, again, like I said, if it's not Lamar Jackson, it's not a clear cut guy from the quarterback position that I feel deserves the MVP. So you look at the incoming crop of quarterbacks, you just have to wonder, will these guys be able to change that narrative? Because there's a lot of hype around them. We possibly could see six quarterbacks taken in the first round in April in the draft. You got Caleb Williams, Drake May. They're definitely locks. I think Jaden Daniels out of LSU gets into that mix. Bo Nix out of Oregon, Michael Penix Jr., and possibly if JJ McCarthy declares for the draft. I'll tell you like this: even as talented as a guy like Caleb Williams is, it's still going to come down to the team. It's going to come down to the system. It's going to come down to the fit, and it's going to come down to the scheme. Because too often in sports, do we see a guy excel at the collegiate level, or gal? Okay, but they go to a pro team and they come in with hype, yes, but it's one of those where, are they going to be put around the right coaches? Are they going to be put around the right players? Are they going to be put in the right culture? It's a lot. So I'm not going to sit up here and just go out and say, well, Caleb Williams is going to be a star in the National Football League, because it comes down to scheme and fit at the end of the day. You look at the most recent quarterback class, the guys who were taken early in the 2023 draft. We had three quarterbacks taken in round one, and then, of course, one in round two who felt like he should have gone in round one. You had Bryce Young, who was first overall to Carolina, CJ Stroud, who went second behind him to Houston, Anthony Richardson, who went fourth overall to Indianapolis, and then Will Levis, who went in round number two to Tennessee. Now, Bryce Young, he's got to get a new head coach, clearly, because the Panthers have moved on from Frank Reich, and there are some people who want to question whether or not that Bryce Young is going to be a bust. They're talking about his size. I'll tell you like this: Bryce Young, first and foremost, was a product of the system at Alabama. You had first rounders blocking for you. You're handing off the football to first rounders. You're throwing the football to first rounders at the wide receiver position. You don't have that same talent so far in Charlotte with the Panthers. And for a guy like Bryce Young, who is slight of stature in comparison to the prototypical size that most scouts rather and coaches look for at the quarterback position, the Panthers are going to have to do better, most notably up front on the offensive line. And whoever takes over as the next head coach of the Panthers, he's already at a disadvantage due to the fact that Carolina does not have their first pick in April's draft, which is more and more looking like it's going to be first overall. Anthony Richardson, clearly the jury is still out, because this young man injured his shoulder early on for his rookie campaign. CJ Stroud is showing like he is the real deal. And credit to the Houston Texans for putting a coach and a structure and a team around him. And then a Will Levis, we don't know as of yet, because the Tennessee Titans are truly indeed a team in transition. But at the end of the day, it's not just about that that's causing parity. Free agency and the salary cap and the NFL clearly are changing things as well. But this is what the NFL team owners wanted, which is unpredictability with their product. You've got to go back to the 2004 New England Patriots to find the last team that won consecutive Super Bowls. We've seen some teams since then get two consecutive Super Bowls. The Seattle Seahawks were within an eyelash of repeating before Malcolm Butler made one of the greatest defensive plays in Super Bowl history back in Super Bowl 49. You think back to the Patriots, who won two out of three when they made three consecutive Super Bowls, Super Bowl 51, Super Bowl 52, and Super Bowl 53. But nonetheless, it is extremely difficult. And again, this is what the owners want. Now, with that said, the playoffs next month are going to be very interesting due to the fact that we really don't know what is coming. This is not the 60s, 70s, 80s, or 90s where things were very predictable in the National Football League when it came to the postseason. The decade of the 1960s dominated by the Green Bay Packers. You think about the 1970s in the NFL. For the most part, throughout the entire decade, you got basically got the same teams in the playoffs contending for the Lombardi Trophy. AFC side, you had the Pittsburgh Steelers, you had the Miami Dolphins, you had the Oakland Raiders. On the NFC side, it was typically the Minnesota Vikings, Los Angeles Rams, and Dallas Cowboys. The 1980s, of course, you think about the San Francisco 49ers, who won 4 championships, but during that decade, Washington under Joe Gibbs won a pair of championships. They were in contention every year. The New York Giants won one, and they were in contention for the most part. And then you think back to the 1990s when that decade was basically dominated by the Dallas Cowboys, Denver Broncos. These were teams that won multiple championships during that decade. But nonetheless, things have definitely changed in the National Football League. And with that said, it's going to bring a ton of excitement because you're looking at it right now, AFC side. Baltimore is the top dog right now. But if they lose to Miami on Sunday, then Miami's in the catbird seat. Kansas City looks like they're basically locked in to that 3 spot. So Patrick Mahomes is going to have to play a road playoff game for the first time in his career. And then you look, somebody's going to win the AFC South. We don't know how severe this Trevor Lawrence injury is, how much it's going to keep him out. CJ Stroud is expected to be back. And you also got the Indianapolis Colts vying for that position. You look at the wild cards. You look at Cleveland. They're playing with house money. They've got a very good defense. And you've got a veteran quarterback in Joe Flacco who's been there and done that. Buffalo appears to be getting their groove as well. Then you've got the 8 and 7 teams who are vying to get in. Indianapolis, Houston, Pittsburgh, and Cincinnati. On the NFC side, San Francisco is still in the catbird seat to finish with the top spot in the NFC. They're tied with Philadelphia and Detroit at 11 and 4. They own the tiebreaker over Philadelphia. And to the 49ers' credit, if you want to call it that, 3 of their 4 losses this season have come against the AFC. So it does not hurt them in the conference standings per se. But the 49ers definitely got to look to get back on track. You've got the Eagles. They have not played well all season long. And I have talked about that. And I still think there's a Super Bowl hangover, along with the fact that they lost both of their coordinators from last year's NFC Championship team. You got the Lions right there at 11 and 4, and they're still playing like they got something to prove. Don't sleep on the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, who could possibly win the NFC South, and they could upset somebody in the wild card round because they're going to get a home game. Can the Dallas Cowboys find a way to get over the hump and make enough key plays in the postseason on the road? Then you've got the Los Angeles Rams, who are finally starting to garner some attention. And this might be the best coaching job, in my opinion, that Sean McVay has done since he's been with the Rams. You've got the Seahawks and Pete Carroll. You got the Vikings, Falcons, Packers, Saints, all alive, okay, at 7 and 8. And of course, the expanded postseason has given more teams life as well. So nonetheless, just buckle up because we got to expect the unexpected. Because you look at it, the Browns, Jaguars, Texans, and Lions are the only 4 franchises that have never appeared in the Super Bowl. And all of them are still alive as far as getting to the playoffs. The Lions have already clinched the division clearly, so they're in the postseason. The Browns are well on their way. We don't know what's going to come of the Texans and Jaguars in that AFC South. Anything can happen. Okay, the Niners could get back on track, and the loss to the Ravens could have been an aberration. The Dolphins could take the AFC. The Bills could jump up and take the AFC. The Chiefs, for all you know, could figure it out and maybe not have to play certain teams in the AFC. A lot of things could happen, but at the end of the day, expect the unexpected. That's what the NFL wants, and that's what the NFL is getting. So, folks, that's going to wrap it up. And as always, I want to take this time out to thank you for tuning into the 300 Pounds of Sports Knowledge podcast here on YouTube. I want to take this time out to thank all of you fine folks out there for tuning in. And if you haven't already, please feel free to subscribe to this channel. Now, if you're on the X formerly known as Twitter, please feel free to follow me at 300 pounds of sports. And like I always say, if you follow me, it'll be my pleasure to follow you right back. There's also the sports discussion group on Facebook at the Sports Depot 365. Now you can check it out. Drop a line and be a part of one of the better sports debating sites going on social media. So once again, fine folks, my name is William Martin, and I am signing off. And I'm saying take care and have yourselves a wonderful day.